Hello, everyone. We're carrying on our series in Psalms. Let me encourage you as much as I can they are so good, the Psalms. I love the Psalms. If nothing else, because often in religious circles we learn to pray like religious people, and the Psalms aren't really like that. The Psalms are cries from the heart. They are true and honest shout-outs to God. And I don't know about you, but in my life, and in my circumstances and in my ups and downs, I need a true shout out to God. So read along with us. One of the big pushbacks against Christianity is that it's just a distraction. It's just a crutch or a comfort. It's not actually any use in this real, complex, sometimes feeling futile world that we live in. It's just somewhere to go. It's just like putting Netflix on instead of watching the news late at night. It's that flick over from reality. It's like, right, I can't handle all the complex truth that life's throwing at me right now. I'm just going to flick it over and I'm going to have a 30-minute laugh. You ever gone for that? I do that all the time. I can't handle this. I'm skipping over to just distraction and comfort and nostalgia. And a lot of people, and sometimes we feel it if we're Christians as well, think the same about Christianity. It's just a crutch against the complexities and the futilities of life. You can enjoy a nighttime prayer if you like. You can cherish an encouraging verse. It's a good pick-me-up. But it's no good when you've got wars that last year on year on year, that kill loads of people. Each side of these wars citing some historic legitimacy. Both sides having innocence. Somebody getting rich on the back of the wars. And then it all starts again in the complexity and the futility of life. God's no good in that circumstance. He's no good when you've got a planet that's ace, but we're so immersed in the making and the taking, and there's a bit of poetry coming here, that it's aching and it's breaking. Here's the complexity of life. When there's wickedness around, and there is wickedness around, it's so toxic. Even the process of trying to be good, even that process can make you bad. Have you had that? When you resolve to be good, take your bat home, give people the silent treatment, even the process of being good, and you just ache at the futility of that. So David screams it out to God. It's the best place to scream it out. Verse 4-6, same thing. It's another scream. Show me, Lord, my life's end. This is really sad, this one. This is a real achy shout. Show me, Lord, my life's end and the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting my life is. You've made my days a mere handbreadth. The span of my years is as nothing before you. Everyone's but a breath, even those who seem secure. Surely everyone goes around like a mere phantom. In vain they rush about, heaping up wealth without knowing whose it will finally be. This is not David saying, God, give me a vision of my death. This is not like a premonition. It's not that kind of thing. But it's the knowledge that grasping the fleeting nature of life means that you will appreciate it more. That's what he's hinting at. Let me sense how important life is. Let me really understand that. Except, and this is the ache of it, he says, we're never really going to get it. And as a consequence of that, I think this is what he's saying in the last couple of verses, we'll chase after stuff that we'll only get to leave for someone else. Can you hear the internal combustion and the scream? This is our lives, isn't it? Do you not feel that? Do you think about life seriously enough? Do you not feel that ache and that pain? Where do we go with that? I would point you to the Psalms, and I would point you in particular to this verse 7. And now I need to confessionally say, I've screamed this with David at God, not knowing it was okay, loads of times. I've screamed this out. And in fact, I've thought as I'm screaming it out, probably shouldn't be saying this to God. It's probably not a legitimate prayer. Remember that we've thought over the last couple of weeks that God changes our cry. We don't just cry at him, we ache as his sons with him. Look what he says, verse 7. And I might give this one a Yorkshire accent just to personalize it a bit. But now, Lord, what do I look for in this futility? Throw me a bone. What am I supposed to hold on to in this? What I'm saying to you is, Me thinking it's not been an okay prayer all these years. Actually, I'm seeing it in Psalms and I'm, oh, that's good, because I've been shouting that for a long time. God says, this is how you can talk to me. Show me what I can hold on to in this life. Give me something that I can have to hold on to you. And let me even encourage you to pray that tonight, or pray on the way home in the car. And David's realization is our answer. And you can see it sort of mapped out in the second part of verse 9. You see verse 9? I was silent, I wouldn't open my mouth, because you are the one who has done this. See what it tells us? See what he realizes? It's an awesome moment of realization. It's something for him to hang on to. It's what he is hanging on to. God, and this is what I would encourage you to hang on to as well, God's still at work in the mess. Feel like giving up? Feel like it's too much? Feel like God can't handle it? God can more than stand up to the question marks against his name, and God is still at work in the mess. He's still at work in the mess. Have you ever stood on the shoulder of an artist mid-painting? Have you ever done that? Maybe you've not. I don't know if this is a highbrow analogy or not. Maybe you haven't, maybe you have. At the beach, have you ever stood on the shoulder of somebody painting and you've looked down and you thought, I don't really know what that is. Don't really know what's happening in it. And they will sort of say to you, I don't know if you've got one of those images to pop up at the moment, they will sort of excitingly say to you, well, here's the sky, this is where the beautiful reflection's going to be, but all you can see is blobs and mess. Have you ever had that? All that you can see is just kind of nothing. It looks something like that, and you're like, what am I supposed to do with that? And the artist goes, yeah, it's all there. In a bit, this is going to look beautiful. There's going to be a gorgeous reflection, and it's going to blow your mind, and all this kind of things. And but you're at a place mid-painting. David sees his life in this psalm, and in many psalms, as a mess. And he sees the world in a mess, but he remembers that a masterpiece is being put together. A masterpiece is being put together in the world, and a masterpiece is being put together in him. A master is at work. So, he sees it all as it should be. He sees the world as it should come together. He knows that there's a painting going on. He remembers that this shouldn't be like this, and that causes him to ache, and it causes him to cry out, we need to be saved from this. Keeping the master in view changes his prayer. But more than that, he sees himself as he should be. He sees himself because he recognizes the master is at work, because he recognizes life's not as it should be. He aches, and he sees himself in that moment. And he cries out to God in the text, save me from this. Don't let me turn into fools. Don't let me go down that path. David's first struggle was keeping quiet. It was keeping his own counsel in the wickedness. That was his struggle. And when he tried to save himself, it became a toxic thing. Do you see that in the text? It became a toxic thing for him. In this instance in the text, one of the things that we see is that God saves him. And the silence goes from toxic to golden. He's still humbled, and he's stilled inside. In Scotland, we were in Scotland the other week, and I need to tell you, if you're thinking about going there on your holidays, it's a really gorgeous place. It rains all of the time. It rains all of the time. On the last day, the sun came out, and me and Jude watched it set along the sea. And it sat on the horizon, and do you know, I don't know if you've ever had one of these moments where the rays feel like they're just coming towards you. Have you ever had that moment? And maybe it was after, because I'd had a long week. I don't always know how God speaks, and I'm cautious to say, oh, God, give me this incredible revelation. But I had a bit of a moment where I realized, oh man, God speaks to us all through the sun. It sustains the whole earth. It looks after everybody. It can save everybody. It can fuel everything. Somebody else across the world gets the blessing from this right now, and yet at the same time as it saves everybody, it saves just me, speaks to just me. And I sat there, and I was quietened, and I was humbled in my spirit, and it was a genuine silence. This is the God that is at work. He quietens our souls, but that's not all he does. He doesn't just break us down. We're not just broken down when we keep God in view and we keep this glorious picture in view. He builds us up better too. Read with me verse 10 and 11. And it sounds really harsh and oppressive as you read through this text. Sounds like this is the kind of God that you don't want in your life. Remove your scourge from me. I'm overcome by the blow of your hand. When you rebuke and discipline anyone for their sin, you consume their wealth like a moth. Do you want to hang around with that God? Do you want to persist with that God? It sounds like having God in view is oppressive, invasive, it's too strong, and it's consuming. Here's a news flash for you. We are human beings, and he's a holy God. There are going to be moments when it will be like that. There are going to be moments when he is strong with us, and it feels like it's a strong arm on our heads. There's going to be moments where it will feel relentless, and it will feel like we have been relentlessly chiseled away at. But what is he doing in these moments? Here's what I would say to you. He's still painting his picture. He's still making a masterpiece. David's other complaint, his first complaint was keeping quiet. God beautifully changes how he could do that. His second complaint was what? That struggle we have with the preciousness of time. The moth analogy, I don't know if you just switched off when the word moth came out, it hits us a bit weird, doesn't it? The point with the moth analogy, as far as I can figure it out, is the moths will eventually try and get through everything. The moths will eat away at anything they can get their teeth into, except they're never going to get through your treasure. The stuff that lasts. What is this passage telling us? God is going to be strong in your life. God is going to strip away at things in your life, but it's not so that you've got nothing. It's so that you've got a treasure that lasts. It's so that life isn't passing you by without you doing anything meaningful. It's so that you can recognize what has meaning in your life. I love a Matt Damon quote. I'm a bit of a Matt Damon fan in that sort of sense. Watch all his films. I think he's a top bloke. But he said something incredible about, I don't know if you know, he won an Oscar when he was young. I don't know if you know that. He won an Oscar for Good Will Hunting, really good film. He was in his 20s, something like that. But he had this, what appears to be just this gorgeous revelation as he got the Oscar. This is the quote about him. It says, imagine chasing that. He's looking back, he's grabbing the Oscar as he's taking it home. Imagine chasing that. This is his realization about the Oscar and not getting it. And getting it finally in your 90s with all of your life behind you and realizing what an unbelievable waste of your life it's been to get it. It can't fill you up. If that's a hole you have, that thing won't fill it. His gift in that moment wasn't the Oscar, really. It was the insight to cherish the moments of time. It was a gift that he could recognize what true treasure was and start to treasure the right things. Do you see the work that God is doing as he paints his masterpiece in David? He designs us for the fullest life. There's genuine humility as we recognize our need of salvation and our need to be saved. And there's contentment. And then there's being fully alive, all at the same time. It's a life for now, and it's a life for eternity. And it's a life for eternity, and it's a life for now. He is at work to make a masterpiece. And I think it's quite beautiful. All of the mess on the canvas, the beauty that we ache for, the little glimpse of the future that we see as we look out on a world and think about the world as it should be, the change that we sense in us, all of that, I believe, points to it. There is a master at work. There is a master at work, and by his Spirit even today in our lives, by his work on the cross, by his word, he is at work. And when we think about the futility of this world, we've got to realize and we've got to remember, and maybe we sense this as God speaks to us and works in our lives, he hasn't given up yet. He hasn't given up on the messy world that looks too complicated, and he hasn't given up on you, who keep on not involving him in the big problems of life. What can we hold on to? What can we hold on to in this futility? We hold on to him. I think my favorite part of the text came at the end. It's when it gets its most honest, and it comes, I think, in light of this insight that we've got to keep God in view. It's like the message says, keep God in view, and that's what gives you the best life. That'll make you humble, that'll make you fit for the moment, that'll give you everything your heart desires. There's all these lessons, and maybe in your Christian experience you can go, yeah, you're right. If I keep the master in view, if I remember that God's changing the world and he's got me as part of that, that's the best way that I can live. But look how honest his prayer is. Don't know if you've dared pray this to God. Maybe you've let it linger in the back of your mind. Hear my prayer, Lord. Listen to my cry for help. Don't be deaf to my weeping. I dwell with you as a foreigner, a stranger, as all my ancestors were. Look away from me. Hark at this. Look away from me that I may enjoy life again before I depart and I am no more. See how honest that is? It's honest, but it's an honesty that you need to find. He says, hear me crying. I don't feel like I belong here. And even though I've learned that my best view of life comes with the master in view, I'm still saying to you, I wish you'd just not look at me for a bit. I wish we could just part company for a bit, and then I could really live. Here's how I'm going to wrap up. That is, in a sense, the most awful, given what God has done, the most awful, unreasonable, impossible ask that you could ever throw at God. And yet, amazingly, and I would say beautifully on the cross, when our sin is in full view, Jesus offers a sacrifice that grabs God's eye. It takes his holy gaze away from us and our sin, and it puts it on Christ, and it puts it all on Christ. And in that moment, we can live. You want something to hold on to? You're crying out for something to hold on to? Hold on to that.